Let's dive into the discussions shaping the nation.
Thanks a lot, Ciarán. Minister, I want to ask whether you are going to finally abolish the legalised discrimination, the legalised super exploitation of young people in this country who are currently paid as little as $9.50 an hour, legally, purely on the basis of their age, on the basis of these sub-minimum wage rates, where if you're under 18, you can legally be paid less than the minimum wage. The can has been kicked down the road long enough, for years now. It's time to abolish them.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Deputy Murphy for raising this really important matter. And as the Deputy is aware, the Low Pay Commission recommended the abolishment of the sub-minimal rates in March 2024. The Low Pay Commission highlighted in its report that this is a complex issue and that they said the government will need to give the findings and recommendations detailed consideration and deliberations, as they highlight the need for government to take its own legal advice on this really important matter. I agree with the Commission that this is a complex issue, and our department is giving these findings and recommendations its full consideration. Our department has commissioned an economic impact assessment on the Commission's recommendations, and these recommendations were accompanied by a research report by ERSI. While the study provided valuable information on the incidence and characteristics of sub-minimal employment in Ireland during 2022, it stopped short of modelling the impact of making changes to youth rates in the here and now. Recent significant increases in the minimum wage shows government's commitment to fair wages for low-paid workers in our economy, but it's also important to acknowledge the challenges that are being faced by our small, medium enterprise sector over the last number of years. We know that the use of the sub-minimum youth rates is largely concentrated in the accommodation, food and retail sectors, and that these sectors have reported considerable cost pressures in recent time. It's also important that we give this issue the full care and the deliberation it requires, and not rush into a decision that could have unintended consequences for young people and for employers. Government will make a decision on these rates after the economic impact assessment has been completed and any required legal advice is available to us.
Thanks. The Minister says we shouldn't rush into a decision. It's 2 years since this Dáil passed a bill that I brought forward to abolish these. The government brought in a timed amendment to delay it for a year so the Low Pay Commission could report. The Low Pay Commission studied it. It had an ESRI study, as you have said, and it came out with clear recommendations. You say you agree with the Commission that the government needs to consider it. Well, do you agree with the Commission, with the recommendation that's very, very clear that sub-minimum wage rates for employees who are 18 and 19 years of age should be abolished no sooner than the 1st of January 2025? Similarly, the rates for those under the age of 18 should also be abolished. The recommendation is absolutely clear. Are you saying, Minister, that a consideration here is in terms of business costs? Because if you are, you're going against the recommendations of the Low Pay Commission, which makes clear that that would not stand up in terms of EU law. The EU law in terms of adequate minimum wages says if you're going to have exceptions, they need to have objective justification. And business costs, you looking after low-pay paying employers, does not count as an objective justification. So you may well be in breach of the EU directive.
Yeah, Deputy, and certainly it is more a nuanced issue than what you're suggesting, and it's really important that our department compile the economic impact assessment, which will provide more up-to-date data. The previous Low Pay Commission report, and the ERSI report, was back in 2022 on the use of sub-minimum rates, and we want to independently evaluate the economic impact. We also want to model the impact on making the changes to the youth rates on firms of different sizes and contained within different sectors, as I said earlier, accommodation, hospitality, retail, and also within the regions. And we also want to examine any potential unintended impact on making changes, such as an increase in unemployment of youth workers, and also the possibility of young people exiting formal education in favour of entering the workforce. So it is complex. It has been referred to the issues that we need to assess, and in the round, Deputy, we have made substantial support and commitments to support workers. We have a very strong record of introducing new workers' rights, and we've also seen the introduction of many measures around the minimum wage, around request for remote working, statutory sick leave, and also on the tips and gratitudes was a recent initiative that this government has been progressive on.
Thanks. Where is the nuance? You tell me why an 18-year-old should be legally paid 80% of the minimum wage. They can't tell their landlord, here's 80% of the rent. They can't tell the supermarket, here's 80% of the cost of my groceries. What is the objective justification for paying a young person less than the minimum wage purely on the basis of their age? Can I ask, when is this economic impact assessment going to happen? The department officials came before the committee in September and they said, we've started it. It was another kick in the can down the road exercise, and it will be ready in 6 to 9 months. 6 months have now effectively passed. When is it going to be ready? It's time to stop kicking the can down the road. The issue is not enormously complex. It's clear that we now have an obligation under the EU directive on minimum wages to get rid of this because there's no objective justification. That's what the Low Pay Commission is saying. And instead, you are allowing yourselves to just represent the interests of some of the lowest paying employers in the country, people who want to employ people on less than the minimum wage. There's no objective justification for that. It's fundamentally unjust.
Yeah, Gurmagat, Deputy Murphy, and certainly it is an issue I have raised with the department in preparation for today's oral questions, and we do want this economic impact assessment to be provided, to be evaluated, to be reviewed. As I said earlier, we have made substantial increases in the national minimum wage. The current system for youth rates is a percentage of the full minimum wage. They have also seen an increase in recent times. And as I said, we've also made progressive changes in policies that do affect all workers across all ranges, around banning zero-hour contracts, enacting the TIPS legislation, learning from the pandemic around the statutory sick pay. So we have made substantial measures. However, we also need to take into consideration the real impact and cost competitive pressures that are on certain sectors within hospitality, within retail, within accommodation, and that needs to be factored in before we make any decision in relation to the implementation or the abolishment of the sub-minimum youth rates. And we will take this in the context of moving forward over the coming months.
Like, share, and subscribe, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.